Hi everyone, welcome to the Oracle Show. Today I want to talk about a certain player that plays for Pakistan and someone that's caught my eye over the last couple of years, and just wanted to really cover him in this video. And his name is Shaheen Afridi. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's a fast bowler for Pakistan. He's represented Pakistan for a good number of years. I think he made his debut around 2017, 2018 times, and since then he has been Pakistan's leading fast bowler since that time. So when he first came onto the scene, he was quick, he was aggressive, he had that ferociousness about him. We managed to make his debut for the Lahore Qalandars, and people who saw him on a first glance saw that he had a potentially very good future for Pakistan in international cricket, and it was proven to be more of the case when he won the 2021 ICC Bowler of the Year, and things were going very good for him. He even developed a reputation where he was able to bowl people out within the first over of the game because he had this fast in-swinging action which was able to bowl people out very quickly because people just weren't able to judge the ball very well. Things were going very well for him. He did have some cons. I would say that he did get emotional when it came to high pressure situations. He did create fights and arguments when they weren't really necessary, and he did tend to get into arguments which were also not needed. But I think those are traits that are common in fast bowlers. I think they are part of the game, especially because when it comes to fast bowling, you need to have that sort of aggressiveness about you, and that's something that he clearly had. But what I can say is that since then he has developed and improved on those things, where he was a captain for the Lahore Qalandars and he was able to lead them to win 2 trophies back to back in the PSL, both in 2022 and 2023. So all was looking good. However, if we were to look over the last couple of years, his performances have gone down dramatically. If we were to look at some of the performances that he has made in Test cricket, for example, we would see that prior to his injury in 2022, he managed to get 99 wickets in 42 innings. His average was 25 runs and his economy rate was 3 runs, which was very good. But after his injury, he's only been able to get 16 wickets in 10 matches. His average has nearly doubled to around 40 runs in innings, and he just hasn't been able to get that spark that he once had. And there's a lot of factors that have come because of this, and that's something I wanted to cover in this video because it's very alarming, especially for a bowler that was able to bowl 140 to 150 clicks at ease. Now it's gone down to 120, 130 and even 110, which is very alarming for somebody who has played for Pakistan at the top level and someone who we can comfortably say has been the best bowler for Pakistan in the last couple of years. And why do I mention his speed in particular? It's because, as I said in the beginning of the video, he had a reputation where he was able to get people out in the first over. One example that I can comfortably tell you about is Rohit Sharma in 2021, or possibly even KL Rahul. If you can see the ball he does, that in-swinging action, they aren't able to read the ball because it's so quick, and because he is able to bowl at that speed and able to get that natural swing to it, by the time they're able to realize what's happened once he's bowled the ball, it's already too late. They got out and it's a wicket for Shaheen Afridi. So that's why this is something that has been a major concern over the last couple of years, and as time has gone on, his speed is continuously reducing and going downhill, and this has been something that's been happening over the last 2 years, and part of it is due to injuries, because since he got injured trying to make that catch in the 2022 final in the T20 World Cup, he just hasn't been the same. And you can argue it's due to a range of things. From 2022 till now, the management of Shaheen Afridi has been really poor. He's bowled an absurd amount more balls compared to a lot of other players in the team. Gary Kirsten actually said that he's bowled more balls than anyone else for Pakistan, especially when a lot of people know that he's been carrying an injury for quite a number of years now. And we can blame this on the PCB for the fact that a current trend with players is that they don't really like to disclose what injuries they have, and they just want to keep playing for Pakistan no matter what the cost, because they're scared that once they leave the team they're unable to come back. And this isn't a recent thing, this is actually something that goes back many years, especially when Shoaib Akhtar was in the team, and this is something that he has said himself, where a lot of players fear that if they get injured or if they were to get out of the team, then the chances of them coming back in would be very difficult. So that's why players tend to do this. They don't take care of themselves the way that they should do, and they put themselves at risk, and we're seeing the results of that right in front of us. However, I also believe he has himself to blame for these situations. I also talked about the Champions Cup in my previous video, and if we were to look at Shaheen Afridi, he comes out to bat, the ball hits his knee, he's clearly injured, he comes out retired, and then he tries going back into the game just so he could play out the rest of his overs, but he ends up injuring himself even more, which begs the question, why is it that players don't try to look after their body the way that should do, and understand that if these things continuously happen, then it will have a direct impact on their career? And at the end of the day, the Champions Cup isn't a trophy where people remember it in a week's time or 2 weeks time or in a month. People remember what you do for your national team, and especially since the England series is coming up very soon, these things just don't go well for Shaheen Afridi. And I think by himself we can clearly say that he needs to be able to take care of himself a lot better when it comes to his body, his injuries, and these sorts of things. So partly, yes, a lot of the blame is to do with the PCB because they haven't solved this issue for a long period of time. Because if Shoaib Akhtar has been saying this and he retired in 2011 and it's been a decade and a half later and these players are still scared to not disclose what injuries they have and not fix these issues, then what have they been doing for the last 15 years and why haven't they been able to rectify it? But it also comes down to Shaheen Afridi, because this also comes down to just basic logic. If you're injured and you know that your body's hurting and you need to sit out, then you got to do it, especially if it's for a league tournament that has basically, as I said in the previous video, been a bit of a sham. So that's one thing that we can say. Another thing with Shaheen Afridi that I can kind of look into, and something that we need to take into account, is we can't discredit the family ties that he has, especially his links to his father-in-law Shaheen Afridi. Now, Shaheen over the last couple of years has been more involved in the team than what he should have, and you could possibly make an argument that could be due to his family ties and on a political sense, that for these reasons that he's still kept in the team for this time, but we don't know. These are things that are in the air. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but you could argue that because of the influence his family has on cricket, that this is something to possibly take into account. But one thing I will say is that a lot of people have been making jokes and they've been taking his marriage quite seriously. The fact that once he got married, suddenly his pace has gone down and this and that. Look, we shouldn't be talking about someone's family. We shouldn't be talking about his personal life. If you're not able to manage what your personal life and your professional life, then that's on the person himself. But these things shouldn't have any of an effect onto someone's professional life, especially in cricket. There are many people that are married and are doing very, very well. And I believe that there are a lot of other factors that have affected Shaheen Afridi on his bowling compared to his marriage, which is an absolutely ridiculous thing. And the reason why I mention this is because there are a lot of former cricketers, analysts, Pakistan, that have talked about this, and it's pretty much a nonsense point. It's something that needs to be ignored and shouldn't really be talked about. And the thing is with Shaheen Afridi is that we need to also look into some accusations made about his behavior. Now, this is something which you can say goes probably a couple of months ago, or probably last year, when after the ODI World Cup in India in 2024, when Babar Azam had stepped down from the captaincy, Shaheen Afridi was given the captaincy for white ball cricket. And I can kind of see why he was given the captaincy. He has proven through the PSL, whether you respect the tournament or not, that he was able to lead a team to win a trophy back to back in 2022 and 2023. So I can see why he would have that self-belief where he could say, okay, if I was able to do this in the domestic leagues in the PSL, then why can't I do it in the international team? But due to the changes in the chairmanship, especially with the introduction of Mohsin Naqvi, he basically took away the captaincy from Shaheen Afridi literally after one series and gave it back to Babar Azam. And as a result of that, it's caused tension that didn't need to be there, which was directly as a result from the PCB's decision making. And the thing is that this has caused a lot of issues, especially with the grouping that has now happened in the PCB between Babar Azam and Shaheen Afridi. And this was very evident in the very recent T20 World Cup in USA. And especially one thing that really stood out to me in that tournament, and there were many things, but in the game against USA, in the super over, Babar Azam decided to give the super over responsibilities to Mohammad Amir. Now, Mohammad Amir, he's been a very, very good bowler for Pakistan when he has played. He has helped Pakistan win trophies such as the T20 World Cup and the Champions Trophy. He's also helped Pakistan get #1 in the test rankings. However, he's been out of the team for many years and he just came back into this tournament. That's also another issue that we could talk about in another video, but he's been picked ahead of Shaheen Afridi, who was told by Babar Azam that he is the main bowler. He has been the main bowler for the last couple of years, and for some reason he wasn't the one person that was picked to bowl the final over or the super over in the game against USA. I don't know why he wasn't picked. I don't know, maybe these things can affect him psychologically and mentally, but these are the things that were very apparent to me that were quite alarming, especially since he has been Pakistan's main bowler for the last couple of years, and that decision was given to somebody who hasn't been in the team for a good amount of time. So that was very alarming to see, and I can understand why there was grouping in the team, especially between Shaheen and Babar Azam, because this will go back to the last couple of tournaments, especially in 2020, 2021 and in 2022. There was a sort of culture that was being made where the players are like a family and everyone's all good to each other and everyone's going to each other's weddings and family events and this and that. And in one way, that is a good thing to boost morale and to create a sense of togetherness. But from Shaheen's perspective, you could argue that, okay, if I am the captain, or if I had been given the opportunity to be captain, then why isn't the other players at least supporting me the way I've been supporting them in their captaincy? And I can see why he would feel let down by Babar and especially feel very bitter because of it. But here's the thing, right? You need to be able to separate that from your professional duty. You're playing for your national team, and you need to still be able to bowl at your maximum potential despite all these things going on, which is why there needs to be a good mix between professionalism and what goes on behind the scene. And that's why, if I were to go to this final point, where with Shaheen Afridi, and this doesn't just affect him, this also affects the other players that are in the team, I believe there's a sort of arrogance that goes around these players. Now, what do I mean by this? I think there was one thing that happened after the disastrous T20 World Cup where Mohsin Naqvi came out and he said that the team needs surgery, there needs to be new players that come in, and it was completely understandable why he said that, because it was a disaster of a performance. And the response Shaheen Afridi made said, in response to the fact that the Pakistan need, whether or not they needed surgery, his response was, is someone ill? So he made a jokingly response to that topic. Now, there's two things I'd say. One, if he was joking about it, then the timing of it was very wrong, because after losing to USA, after losing to India in the way that they have, and especially if you were to look at previously in other tournaments, losing to the Netherlands, losing to Zimbabwe, losing to Ireland, losing to Afghanistan, losing the teams that Pakistan we have never ever thought that would happen, started to happen on a more consistent basis. And the second thing is that if he is serious in believing that there's nothing wrong with the team and things are going fine and dandy, then that's very alarming, because the results are in front of everyone. The team hasn't been performing very well or up to the expectations that they should have. I remember back in 2007 when Pakistan lost to Ireland in the ODI World Cup, and that was a big thing back then because it was unheard of. But now, as time goes on, these losses in tournaments and especially in series is becoming more of a consistent basis. And in cricket and in any sport, you need to have honesty. You need to just say things for how they are, and if you're unable to do that, then you shouldn't be around that sort of atmosphere. And especially if you want to be the captain of the national team, of any team to be fair, because one of the most important aspects you need is honesty. You need to look at the problem and say it for how it is and try and find solutions to it. And it's because of these things where I say that if I were to sum everything up, it was probably a good idea that he didn't become captain, just because of these things, because you need to have a sort of self-awareness of what is going on in your surroundings. And if there is behavioral issues and arrogance issues, and if there is groupings that's happening in the team, and if you're providing more of a bad influence compared to a good influence, whoever the player is, then you shouldn't be part of that setup. And this doesn't just apply to Shaheen Afridi, but it also applies to all the rest of the players in any team around the world. And especially in the case of his pace, it's also important to know that we can't change our standard to suit whoever we want. We need to keep the same standards for all players, because here's the thing: if Shaheen isn't bowling at the required pace, if he isn't bowling 80, 85 plus, or if he isn't bowling in the 90s, then I don't see why he shouldn't be dropped from the team. He should be dropped from the team if he's not bowling at the required rate, because a lot of players nowadays, and we can see this especially with Shadab Khan, where they're trying to be all-rounders. There's nothing wrong with learning how to bat and batting, but the thing is that if you are brought into the team for a specific purpose, you're not performing for the purpose that you were brought in for, then there's no reason for you to be there. For example, if you're a bowler and you're trying to be a batsman, it would make more sense to put in a batsman instead of a bowler. That's just the way it is. And if that was the case where Pakistan suddenly decided to reduce their standards, then why not bring in, say, Mohammad Abbas? He can't bowl as fast, but he's been getting loads and loads of wickets. But that's another discussion in itself. But yeah, overall, I want him to do well. I want him to get back to the pace that he once had, and the quality and the bowling where he was able to get people out in the first over and adapt and improve himself from that. But if he is unable to be honest and give his body the right recovery that it needs, as well as fixing his mindset and just being honest with the situation for what it is, because Pakistan cricket right now is in dire straits, then it doesn't look good for Shaheen Afridi. And I think if he continues the path that he's on, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends his career prematurely. And that is something that is very, very alarming. And this is something that the PCB really needs to look at and needs to take control over, because it is a threat, especially for the future of Pakistan cricket. Because Shaheen is very important, but there needs to be a sort of culture in place where these things need to be fixed in terms of his recovery, in terms of the mindset that they have. And if not, then it doesn't look good. But anyway, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys liked what I said. If you didn't like what I said, then feel free to comment. Please like and subscribe in the video, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye.